Hello and welcome to the Pelvic Floor Connection, the podcast that lifts the lid on the mysterious and misunderstood matters of all things pelvic floor and core health, helping you to better connect with the power of your pelvic floor. With me, Sarah Jane West Watson. Welcome to the Pelvic Floor Connection, and especially if you're watching on YouTube. This is the first episode to go straight onto YouTube, and it felt right for reasons that will become apparent. But if you are new to the Pelvic Floor Connection on YouTube, there are 92 other episodes over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which I am in the process of bringing across, but it's just there. If you've enjoyed this episode, head over there. So Today we're talking about midlife, and this is so close to my heart. And again, I'm really going to share some personal stuff that I've experienced that's really helped me bring this episode together as part of shaping what's coming up in the Fit Fanny Adams My World over the next 12 months. And I'm really excited about it. So midlife really feels to me like something that I'm watching, myself, friends, clients, women, social media, just struggling to get through, really feeling like it's something that it's an obstacle for us to get over, and that it's full of pain, rage, anger, anxiety, and a whole host of other symptoms that we just have to get through. And there feels this environment of survival. And I'm going to ask the question, and today really talk about, what if there's another way? What if there is another way that we can start to explore and start to feel this shift, this period of change, this midlife menopause, as actually a transformation, and with it going in with grace and going in with a different approach that feels less of a battle and more of an opportunity and an experience to grow and evolve. Are you intrigued? Well, the last probably 2.5 years has been really interesting behind the scenes. That's one thing I'm going to share today, is how a totally different experience that's been going on in my world has given me a real opportunity to see these challenges, this fight for survival, in a different way. And that's what we're going to share. So if you have been battling with fatigue, with anxiety, with insomnia, with hormonal roller coasters, and are sort of finding and searching for the different remedies and the different solutions, then I hear you and I feel you. But take a moment to come and listen from another perspective and see if it changes how you're looking at what we're trying to do in this period of midlife and menopause. So midlife, menopause, when, what, how does it all happen? It suddenly happens very quickly, I find. So typically we know that menopause happens at the age of 51 for women, but this approach into it can happen sort of 10 years before we start to ebb into peri-menopause and then menopause. And that in itself is petrifying for some women who are really struggling with severe symptoms. And they think, oh my God, I have another decade of feeling this bad. And it breaks my heart. I see so many women, so many clients, so many friends just in tears and in a really dark place of feeling that they have no idea how to get out of this dark, deep hole where their body suddenly feels alien. And I think we've become, and I say this with caution of a backlash, but we almost reached a place in society where we are really fighting for understanding, which I think is really important, that we do get that understanding of this difficult transition that we're going through. But that sometimes we're missing the point in here, that we are trying to find a tablet for the memory loss, or a supplement for the haziness or the fatigue, a pick-me-up for the fatigue, something for the mood swings, something for the rage, something for the anxiety. How can we support this anxiety where I need to be more mindful? And then we almost feel like, oh my God, I've got to fit something else into my world to become more mindful. It becomes like this overwhelming burden of just getting through how dark and desperate and lost we find ourselves in our body. And I think I've inadvertently been very fortunate to have had the opportunity to take a real different approach in my life, not to get me through menopause, but actually to get me through a challenging situation that's been happening outside of my life, which has really given me, ironically, a slightly different viewpoint on maybe this is what we're missing as women. So what am I talking about? So I think 2023, so where are we now? It's February, at the time of recording, February the 11th, 2026, in the summer of 2023. My husband came across an amazing opportunity, which I have to say, hand on heart, I was so supportive, still am, really supportive of him taking a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to row across the Atlantic. So that is a 2,000-mile journey in a two-man boat, basically unsupported. Everything that he's got is on there. And that was an 18-month training period that was about to embark on, and he then set off in November 2024. And that was a huge period of intense training for him. But I think what happened at that time was we've got two children I've got a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. So the 6-year-old at the time was very sort of unaware of the magnitude. The then 10-year-old going on 11, very much so. And we are water people, we do a lot in the water. So there is a clear understanding of the water is something to be respected, not taken for granted. So we had a comprehension of the significance of this event. And with it, I really saw an opportunity that I was going to be under a significant period of stress. Historically, going way back in my late teens, early 20s, I'm very proud of what I went through. I went through an immensely challenging time of chronic fatigue, ME, and I really respect from that how much I have to look after my body and my health. So whilst my husband signed up to the training program, if you like, and started undertaking training program, I was like, right, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to get 2 kids and all of the logistics, all the emotional getting us through this, plus me, plus sort of managing that dynamic of having to take on board my husband's business whilst he was away and my business, and navigating the challenge of, oh my God, I know what he's going through out there. I needed to do my work. So I embarked on my own preparation. And I was really lucky. I've worked with an amazing US yoga psychotherapist for years and years. And now, I had the opportunity to get involved in a coaching program, which she was doing. So I've been working really deeply on really being true to myself, taking myself out of everyday world to have some real deep conversations with what do I really need, and working out where I'm holding stress, how I'm venting, letting that stress out. And I knew that had to be a non-negotiable for me to get through this event, to get through this whole period of challenge. And I think it's really easy to say, oh, it was just about whilst he was away, but actually there's a lot of mental strain. It's a bit like training for the marathon. It's happening and it's like a date, and it's like you've constantly got something sitting on your shoulder. The whole family was very aware, okay, this is our last summer holiday before he goes, this is our last Christmas, da 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 da. All of this stuff starts to build up. Plus the fact that the training schedule is one of actually, it's just like low intensity, but high endurance, high duration stuff. So he would sort of take himself off for 2 or 3 hours for a walk, a row, whatever it might be. And so I had to pick up quite a lot of slack, which was fine because we agreed and we discussed as a family it was a team event. And again, we took that seriously. We all sort of recognised what we had to do. But what that has really shown me, and I think I was really privileged to also realise that I was having to juggle total memory loss and having zero brain, a menopause brain, as I'm taking on and learning his business and the challenges of his business, the logistics of we've got to be here, there, and such has got to happen. I've got to do a sat phone test and a this test and all of these different tests going on at different times. It made me then realise, oh my God, I'm also taking on this mantle whilst my hormones are just doing their own crazy thing. And I think I'm very lucky in some respects that I'm going into menopause, peri-menopause, generally very, very well and healthy, which is a real blessing. But I was really conscious that mentally I was having to work a lot harder than I typically would. And the rage, the anger, the emotional toll was also very, very close to the surface. But having the support, having this deep turning inwards on a regular basis with a community that was not about pushing through, but actually about turning inwards to this inner wisdom that actually we really do have, if we are given the opportunity and supported and nurtured to listen into it. And this sounds a bit fluffy in a world where it's like, gimme, push harder. I just need this so I can get through. I haven't got time for, God, if I had a pound for every time I heard that. I haven't got time for. Well, honey, your body is asking for that time. And actually it's not asking for a lot. It's actually asking for what is really raw and really integral and an authentic requirement for your body, which is a turning inwards and a support and a softening into this amazing transformation of menopause. And this amazing transformation as we are literally coming out of our fertile years and going into our years of wisdom, our years of actually delivering this voice, delivering this message of our experience, our life, this motherhood, this gift of life that we've delivered, if indeed we have, and if it isn't actually manifested in the form of offspring, then the wealth of knowledge in the life that you've had, we are starting to become the wiser women, theoretically. I hope it'll caveat that for me, but to pass that wisdom on. And I think that's the message that I actually really leaned into understanding is this is a transformation. This is something as significant as trying to get through the toddler years. Well, we don't chuck a whole load of just crap at our toddlers to try and get them through asymptomatic. We support them. We give them the time. We give them the slack that they don't know how to express their emotions, so they might lie down in the middle of the supermarket and have a complete rant. We give them that grace that their body's going to hurt, and we hold them as those teeth are coming through. We hold them as they're learning, their brain suddenly taking on different concepts. We really support them through that process, and hell, it might be challenging, but we get what they're going through. Same with the teenage years, and God help me because I'm just about to go through it. But we understand that there's a transformation. Our Our child is about to become an adult. And as they go through that transformation, as they go through the ability then to become maternal, paternal, they become this different form of themselves as they evolve through this gift that is life. We give them the grace, sometimes challenged, but we give them the grace because we understand the bigger picture, what's happening. Yet the whole menopause, midlife conversation just seems to be about the symptoms. We're not really understanding what it is that women are going through. Women are going through this evolution, this transformation through their maternal years to actually have no childbearing ability because they move beyond that. They have something different, something greater, something different to offer. And that we're not given the grace of understanding the importance, the significance of that. In fact, in our society, we're damn near shamed of getting older because we have to mask the wrinkles, we have to mask the grey hair, we have to mask the fact that our skin is getting saggy, that our prolapses might be getting worse, that our continence suddenly becomes questionable, that everything about our body is changing as, just like our toddlers, just like our teenagers, we are going through the next leap. And it's given me such an incredible opportunity to really understand that by not fighting each symptom, by not trying to deep dive into each symptom, but by stepping back and really saying, okay, I'm giving myself the grace to become an evolved version of who I am, then it's helping me soften into this process. And I feel like what was going to be a really, really challenging year, and blimey O'Reilly, it has been an incredibly challenging year. Not just of the race and the row itself, but for the emotional toll that it's taken on the family, on my husband, on my business, as I had to let go of an awful lot in order just to do what I needed to do, which was get us through as a family. And I've given myself grace, but I didn't expect the fallout, probably for me, to be as significant as it was. Probably because I couldn't push through with the zest of my 25, 30-year-old self. Because I am chronically sleep deprived. I have got a child, 2 children going through their own different life stages. But also, I had something more to learn, that this was giving me deeper insight and ability to connect with that inner wisdom. That word that I'm going to come back to an awful lot is that inner wisdom of I'm evolving in a different way. And this voice, this rage, this questioning of, do I want to do this? Do I want to be here? Who am I? Why am I so annoyed with everyone? All of those voices, all of those questions you suddenly hear is, yeah, they're perfectly okay. They're something that, just like that battling teenager trying to find boundaries, trying to find and break boundaries, trying to find who they are, in the midst of the social dynamics of school, of teams, of the social media influence, all of that crap. There's so much kind of and yeah, we feel that in peri-menopause. But why? And understanding why has really helped me. And it's also helped me so much that I'm really passionate about weaving it into all of the work that I do. Because yes, pelvic floor is so important, because the pelvic floor is something that really suffers in menopause, really suffers in midlife, from dryness to prolapse to incontinence to insomnia-derived urgency incontinence, which is something that I'm researching at the moment that's so interesting in a different episode. But that is really important. But actually, in order to support that, I can support you better by adding in this extra layer of, let's walk through this together. Let's really understand this inner wisdom, this wisdom that is available that we choose to ignore as a society, because it's not about pushing harder. It's about leaning into what we're actually evolving and recognizing that a lot of it is about the shame of aging, and we don't want to be the wise woman, but actually understanding that that wise woman has such a gift to be, and that it is sometimes time to say thank you to that maternal period, whether or not you were blessed or not to have children, or chose not to, but to actually recognize that this is a different place that you're going to. So nervous system regulation, oh my God, we're just starting to really talk about the magnitude of this. This is something that is just pivotal. Real deep nervous system regulation and understanding our behaviors when we're not regulated, understanding what our go-to patterns are, typically of self-destruct, typically that take us into that shoulda, woulda, coulda mindset, and really understanding that's completely natural because we're not handling this other thing that's going on over here of either rage, anxiety, stress, because of the world that we find ourselves in. So nervous system regulation is something that I'm deeply weaving into my work with all of my clients. More education. Let's just share what is actually going on. Let's just share what's happening to the body. What is important to our health and well-being at these key life stages is really, really important. And that's something that I'm going to be feeding a lot more into well-being education workshops. The first of which I'm so excited is really around this menopause topic, and that's a workshop that's happening, totally free workshop online on the 27th of February. So if you want to jump into that free workshop with me talking around this in so much more detail, then just head to fitfannyadams.com/workshop. There was the menopause moment, wasn't it? www.fitfannyadams.com/rebrand. We're rebranding the menopause, so it's /rebrand. See that? You can see the brain cells going. I'll pop the links in the show notes for clarity. But yes, you're more than welcome to come in there. If you can't join live, you can send me your questions in advance, and then you can catch a replay. What else am I doing? I'm going to add a huge amount more into the Transform Your Core program. So I parked my 6-week signature program literally for a year, and I normally run it 3 times a year because I did not have the capacity. I didn't have the capacity, and I did not want to serve something that I couldn't deliver to the level that I like to deliver it. So the 6-week Transform Your Core and Pelvic Floor program is restarting again in April. And that is something that I'm so excited about, and is going to be weaving into so much more education and knowledge about what is actually going on, talking about lubricants, talking about vaginal dryness, talking about prolapse, talking about different options and educating on these options alongside of the fundamental strengthening and reconnection of the pelvic floor. If you're interested in jumping into that 6-week program, then that is fitfannyadams.com/waitlist, because the doors aren't even open yet, but the date is there, April 13th, we're kicking off. And the Members Hub, the Members Hub is really going to be, that's my online platform for classes, historically the core strengthening classes, but I'm adding in this nervous system regulation component, this education component. So it really is this wellness hub for women, and this community of supporting women with the grace and with the support and this holistic wisdom that we have, because we are amazing. We can give life. We are, whatever the men say, we are the most advanced member of the human race. We have the ability to grow human life. And with that becomes a degree of sophistication in how our body works. That doesn't come with an instruction manual, but we have our ancestors. We have the ability to understand what is going on if we tune in and understand the bigger picture. And that is something that I'm really excited to share at a deeper level. So that has been my whirlwind year of survival. Would I have swapped it for anything? No, I've loved reconnecting. And ironically, I think I started the podcast by talking about my journey with chronic fatigue and ME when I was 20, 21. Thank you to all of those amazing people who supported me at the time. And I came out of that process really healed, deeply healed, because I understood myself so well, and I understood how I'd got to that point and what I needed to do to get out of it. And I think what's been really interesting is I really feel that this is now coming full circle, having kind of lost that dialogue with myself, with that inner conversation as the busyness of motherhood and wife has happened. I really feel I've almost come full circle back to that 21-year-old connection with the ability to listen deeply to my body and to really be guided by what feels right, which is helping me with this transformation. And I'm going to end with just one lovely little analogy, which makes me feel better every time I'm having a really challenging day with this, is these butterflies that we see, absolutely beautiful, to progress and to transform from the caterpillar when they go into that chrysalis into that beautiful butterfly. It's not like the little wiggly caterpillar grows wings. It literally transforms to goo inside that chrysalis. And from that goo, this beauty unfolds. And that gives me so much comfort and so much hope that the more that we go dark and deep inside of ourselves, the more beautiful and vibrant and full of life and purpose and energy we come out of that chrysalis, we come out of this transformation. So I really hope that has shed a little different perspective. I'm going to drop all those links in the show notes, but if you want to connect with me, if you just want to say, what do you mean, I want to understand this a bit more, drop me an email, connect with me on Instagram, social media. I'm at FitFannyAdams, or Sarah Jane at FitFannyAdams. But please, I will ask one final thing of you. If you have enjoyed this episode, please take a moment just to rate, review, and to hit subscribe or to follow to the podcast. And then you'll get the update I'm back every fortnight after my crazy year of sort of slotting in podcasts. I'm back to my regular fortnight routine. So I cannot wait to have more pelvic floor conversation with you in a fortnight. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you have, then please do take a moment to rate and review me on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Help me to help make this conversation be heard and take the shame away from pelvic pain.